think in models. And we want to build models around our decision making so that way when we have a new decision, it might be nuanced, but not completely. So 80% of it is already solved before we get to the decision.
What we're looking for is clarity. What we will not find is certainty.
100% accurate.
The decision will still have to be made by us. Just like you said, it doesn't replace good decision making. It informs good decision making.
You're listening to the Sherpa Leadership Podcast, your guide to climbing higher in life and leadership. I'm Reed Moore, and alongside Chase Williams, we're here to help you break through obstacles, scale your potential, and lead with greater clarity and purpose. Hey everybody, welcome back. You are listening to the Sherpa Leadership Podcast. We're here to help you climb higher in life and leadership, and we're excited for the content we have today. As always, we love for you to like and subscribe and go to sherpaconsultinggroup.com for all of the extras that we put out there. And as always, if you love somebody else in leadership, share it, and hopefully it's going to be encouraging to them. All right, Chase, what are we talking about today?
Well, we're talking about making decisions.
Man, I don't want to make any more decisions.
Yeah, decision fatigue. That's part of what we're going to talk about, and it's real. But ultimately, we're going to kind of lay out a framework for making good decisions as leaders, because there's some tips and tricks and best practices, as you might, around making quality decisions over time. And it might go without saying that decision-making in leadership is pretty paramount to the type of leader that you'll be, the quality of leadership you're delivering, etc. So I think it's a pretty important topic.
Yeah, our job as leaders, a lot of times, is to simply be the ones who are ultimately the responsible party for decisions. That doesn't mean that we make unilateral decisions all the time, but it means you carry the weight of the responsibility of the decision. And so in thinking that through, we want to make really good decisions. We want to make consistent decisions, and we want to be able to execute those decisions well, take the ownership of whatever the result is, and be able to do that consistently over time, as well as continue to grow in our ability to make decisions. So we want to maybe lighten the load a little bit for leaders in their decision-making process and give everybody a clear path for great decision-making.
And that's really the acronym that we're going to be working off of, is CLEAR PATH, right? But in essence, it's 9 principles that will help us make better and better and better decisions as we go along.
Yeah.
So the first one, which is the first principle in this clear path model, is check the undertow.
Yes.
Right? Which is code word for what? When we say check the undertow before you make a decision, what does that actually mean?
So it means that you as a leader are subject, you're subject to your own emotions.
Yep.
And the impact on your ego, your fear of failure, or fill in the blank. And before we go into any structural things around good decision making, we have to kind of understand that we have to evaluate where are we at really in this moment of decision making, because the undertow of I was thinking about this. We were on vacation a while back down in Cabo San Lucas, and there's only one beach down there in that area that you can go swim in. The rest of them look just fine, but there's all these signs everywhere that say, like, don't swim. Well, why? The ocean looks great. Because beneath the surface, there's something that's going to suck you out to sea. Yep. And we as leaders can go into a decision-making process, have really good technical decision-making skills, but not be aware that we're actually making this decision from a place of ego or a place of fear or those type of things. And it's not that we need to not have those undertows. We actually have to be able to account for them when we're going into decision-making.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we're human. Yep. And so no matter how much you think you can turn all your humanism off and make this decision in a vacuum, it's just not real. Yeah. Right? So if we're honest and we say, okay, what decisions or what emotions rather might be influencing my decision?
Exactly.
Right? And then we can ask even better questions like, are these emotions influencing me in a positive or a negative way around this decision?
Yeah.
Are these emotions I'm having, if I'm going to be honest and aware of them, are they helpful or hurtful in making this decision?
Yeah.
But to pretend like they're not there is, it's just a little short-sighted.
Yeah.
Right? And so the idea is, we know that emotions as humans and leaders are going to influence our decision. We want to make sure that they're influencing them to the right degree, and then they're not driving the decision, that we're not making a decision based on our ego or based on our fear of failure, based on wanting to look good, right? Even if those things are influencing us to an appropriate degree, they don't get to drive the bus.
Yeah, I was a few years back, we were working on a business and we were thinking about going down the route of venture capital. So I grabbed like 14 different venture capital books, read them all, realized that it has a whole language, like they build their own language, so you kind of can't break into that space. It was fine. And so we started talking to venture capitalists, and they were just the coolest people. I mean, incredibly helpful, wise counsel, great. And so I called a buddy of mine who was one of them, and I just said, hey, there's just some things that I don't understand here that I need to know about. And it was around the preference for payback. And I was like, hey, I'm doing the math here. And, if somebody goes out and they have a $250 million exit, it looks like the founder might not make a whole lot of money. And he said, yeah. I said, so, well, how do people get themselves into a position where they're doing deals with venture capitalists and they don't actually understand what that looks like? And he said, well, the reason is that when we sit down with most founders, they want to look really good and they want to look sharp. And as a result, they don't ask the right questions, because we're going to tell you exactly how this all plays out. And like, there's no smoke and mirrors, but here it is. And he gave me an example of somebody that had a $20 million exit. And as the founder of the company, he got $250,000 on exit.
Wow.
But
he had to tell all his friends and family he had a $20 million exit.
That's right. And I said, how that happened? And he just said, we tried to tell him how this would work, but he wanted to project himself with his ego that he knew better, and he just didn't want to hear what we had to say. And so we funded the deal, and this was how it worked.
This is the outcome that they told him.
This is the outcome that they told him. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks, right? There's decisions that we go into with ego or fear or those kind of things, and man, they can impact the outcome.
They really, really can. So this first one, the first principle is check the undertow, which is check your emotions, understand what seat that they're playing, what seat that you have them at the table, and make sure it's not the only decision-making seat.
Yeah.
And then ask questions around how those are impacting this decision you're about to make, and be hyper aware that it is in your favor, not the other way around.
Yeah. Do you want to look good? Do you want to be right? Do you want to avoid conflict? In other words, do you want the person that you really need in the room around a decision? Do you want them not to be there because they might rain on your parade?
Yep.
Right. Your parade might need to get rained out.
Yep. Love it. Okay. So the second one, which is the L in clear path, or the second principle, is locate the impact.
Yes.
Right. And there's this idea that if we make lots of decisions over the course of a career or a day or a week, right, which we tend to do, not all of them have the same amount of impact. And it's actually important to know the level of impact prior to making the decision.
Yeah.
So how do we evaluate the level of impact that a decision might have on the organization?
So I think a really great model I was introduced to was by Susan Scott, and she wrote the book Fierce Conversations, and she talks about the decision tree model. And she breaks decisions basically into four different elements: a root, a trunk, a branch, or a leaf decision. Yeah. And so if you just think about a tree, you think, if a tree loses a few leaves, it doesn't actually impact the health of the tree. It's fine. Right? You lose enough leaves and it might just look a little bit funky, but that's about the extent of it. You go down to the branch. If a tree loses a branch or two, it's not going to make a massive impact to the company. You start taking chunks out of the trunk, you got a problem. You start lopping off roots, the tree's going to die, right? Yep. And so when we look at that, we think about how do we delegate decisions, and then how do we deal with our desire to get really into the weeds in our organization. Some of us want to be a part of every decision. Yep. Some of us want to zoom way farther out than is healthy, and then decisions are made inside the organization that are above other people's pay grades that we should be involved in, right? So we have to be able to navigate that.
Yeah, we also need to know the size of impact, or the amount of impact, using the tree model on the organization, so we can decide how much time we're going to spend, time and energy, on making this decision.
Yes.
Right? Because if there's a lot to be made, I want to conserve and use my time and my energy, my resources, whatever research I may need to do. We're going to talk about some of those things, but on the decisions that have more impact.
Yeah.
Rather than spending half a day deciding whether we should get 1-ply or 2-ply toilet paper for the restroom, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Some may argue that's an important decision, but I think you get the point, right? Like some things need to be made quickly because the impact on the organization is just smaller than other things. So I want to walk through some examples for leaf, branch, trunk, and root so that people can really understand what we mean when we say the level of impact of the organization.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about a leaf decision, it's going to be something that's relatively low impact, right? And you mentioned that. And so an example might be operational preference, 1-ply or 2-ply.
Yes.
Right? Does it really impact the company? Probably not. And although it's a funny joke, it's a good example. It's like, this is an operational preference. Someone else can make this decision because it's low impact, or I can make it very quickly.
Yeah. And the model would be, if something is a leaf decision, somebody in the organization is going to make the decision, and they're not even going to tell you, right? It's going to release you from all of the complexity of having so many decisions floating around your head, which are going to compromise your bigger decisions.
That's right. So a branch description is going to be something that has, we'll call it moderate impact. And an example of that might be a team process or a process that we would typically follow inside of the organization. We want to make a change to that, or we're deciding whether we should make a change to that. Okay, well, it might be a little bit more important than the toilet paper, but it's still only a moderate impact, because if we're not throwing the whole process out, we're just making a few tweaks to it, there's a moderate impact there. And so we might want to slow down just a bit, or that decision might fall to someone more senior inside of the organization with some more context. That decision like that might even warrant 10, 15 minutes at a team meeting to discuss. Right? But again, the impact is going to be considerably moderate to the whole organization.
Yeah, and kind of the model is, if something gets elevated to the branch level, this is a level that a trusted person in the organization makes the decision, takes action on the decision, and then gives you a heads up as to what happened, right? So you don't get blindsided. I'm working on this in one of the areas of our company right now where I don't need to be a part of a lot of the decisions, but I need somebody to relay the decisions that were made. So when I get asked a question, I have some level of understanding around what happened, and I have kind of the ability to see the whole field of play.
And you can support that decision that someone else made inside of an organization that you're party to.
100%.
Okay, so then we have a trunk decision, which is going to be a major impact.
Yes.
Right? And an example of that might be like an important strategic initiative that we're going to undertake, right? That's just one example. So give us kind of the thinking and the process for a trunk decision inside of an organization.
Yeah. So remember, when we're decision making, we actually, if you want to be a genius with 1,000 helpers, you take all of the decision making into yourself, right? You disempower everybody else and you bottleneck yourself. And we don't want to do that.
Right.
So what we want to do is, we don't want to jump right from a branch all the way down to a root level decision. So we have this trunk level decision. What it is fundamentally is, I trust somebody to go out, make a decision, do the research, but before they pull the trigger, they're going to run it by me. So this might be a board meeting, or this might be a one-on-one. It's like, hey, what did you decide? I'm going to challenge it. I'm going to ask hard questions. I might send you back to tweak on it. But I'm not taking ownership of all of the decision-making processes. I'm just overseeing those, and I want to know before something's happened. The bigger your organization gets, the more people earn the right into this space, and they're making really big decisions inside of the organization. They're just not pulling the trigger before you're aware and can challenge it.
Yep. They're making those decisions with you and by involving you up to the point of, okay, we're all on board with this decision.
Yeah, and the nuance would be, they're making it with you, but they're making it with you having come fully prepared with what they want to do. And we've all experienced this, where somebody comes and they want to do it with you, but what that actually means is they want to give you the job back.
Yeah. Yep.
This is not the area where you're taking the job back. It's the area that you challenge the job that somebody else is doing.
Now, there is an area where you may take the job back, or actually still is your job, and that is going to be a root decision.
That's right.
Which is literally like the impact on the organization is existential or massive, or could mean, it means an amazing amount, whatever that is, both potentially positively or negatively, potentially even the existence of the organization.
Yeah.
Right? So you think of something like changing your business model altogether.
Right.
Or shutting down a huge portion of your business that drives lots of revenue, or something like that.
Yeah.
So tell us how we go about making those decisions.
So when we go about making those decisions, we are a part of the decision making process. We're a part of the vetting process, and ideally, we're actually doing that with the rest of this decision framework, which is involving wise counsel and all of the rest, because the stakes are really, really high, and we don't want to be checked out of this. Not only this final decision, but the entire process. So if you look at large companies, that's where the highest level of decision goes to the board. Right. And the board is sitting there duking this out. There's a lot of room for productive conflict. There's a lot of room for meeting of the minds, for beating up ideas. And we have to be able to stress test the most important decisions. And if a decision that's going to go out to the real world can't survive the boardroom, it's not worth it.
Right.
Even if you feel so passionately about it, it has to survive there first.
Love that. Okay. So the second principle in this clear path framework of decision making is locate the impact. And the question that a leader can ask themselves is, if I get this decision wrong, how much does it actually matter?
Yes.
Leaf, branch, trunk, root.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can get ourselves wrapped up around our preferences. I certainly can. Right. So something's a leaf decision, but it's actually where I started, right? Like I started at this place, I'm grinding in my industry. And so now somebody brings that up. I'm like, oh, I want to have a say in that.
Yeah.
It's because you're passionate about it. But remember, part of this is actually empowering other people too.
That's leadership in essence.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Third principle is an E, and that is establish the filters.
Yes.
Right? So if we're going to make a decision, we need to establish the filters. And what does that actually mean? How do we use filters as an advantage in our decision making?
So if we think about the level of decision fatigue that can build up, we can increase that exponentially by treating every decision like we have to start with a blank slate, an empty sheet of paper, and start thinking about it from scratch. What we want to be able to do is we want to be able to, as we move forward in our organization, we want to be able to find patterns for the way that we've made decisions before and start to kind of build a constitution or a playbook for the company around decision making. For us in our company, the very first layer is our mission, vision, values, beliefs, and perspectives. And we treat that actually like a constitution.
Yep.
So before we even start putting our brain power and our creativity behind it, we ask, hey, does this actually pass the test of alignment with these core filters? The answer is no. We don't spend any minutes on it.
Yeah. If it's not even in alignment with our core values, why do we need to spend any time making a decision around it? We can toss it out.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. And like you said, that becomes kind of the first phase filter of not feeling like we have to make all decisions, because some of them just aren't worth making. They're not in alignment with who we are as an organization. We can filter those out relatively quickly.
Yeah. So we take that and we start lining up like playbooks and different things. How do we do a process around this? Well, one of them that showed up early on was how do we part ways with somebody, right? And how do we do it really well? And what ends up happening is you have a couple of things that happen. Number one is you have somebody who leaves very, very poorly and your emotions get heightened, but you actually have a playbook. Like, this is how we treat people. This is how we do this as far as our side goes. And we follow that. And so it removes some of the emotion. The other thing it does is if you do something consistently over and over and over based off of filters, you know what you said and didn't say.
Yeah.
Right. And over time, that becomes really, really important. Somebody says, well, you said this. It's like, nope. I actually haven't said that in 10 years, because I literally use the exact same words every time for the last 10 years about this type of decision. So there's a lot of confidence there and just a lot of removal of the energy it takes to rethink through things from scratch. We talk about it often, but leaders think in models. And we want to build models around our decision making so that way when we have a new decision, it might be nuanced, but not completely. So 80% of it is already solved before we get to the decision.
Yeah, you got it. And the mission, vision, values, beliefs, and perspectives, again, is kind of like the first layer of defense on if this decision is even something that we want to spend time on.
Yeah, Jim Collins gave us all a great model. I think it was in Good to Great where he talks about bullets before cannonballs.
Yep.
Right? And so what's our model for pursuing a new potential vertical in business? It's, gather all the gunpowder and shoot and hopefully it works. Nope. What's the thing that we do? We shoot a bullet.
Test.
And we test it. Okay, did that work? Did that hit? Okay, cool. Let's shoot another bullet. Once we realize, hey, this might have some legs, now we load the cannon and we let it rip.
Yep.
Right? But that's a model for decision making.
Yeah, so make sure that you are establishing your filters like mission, vision, values, beliefs, and perspectives, or otherwise, so that you're not restarting on a blank sheet of paper every time a decision touches your desk or touches your organization's table.
Yeah, it'll wear you out. And there are times where, whether it's internal or external, with a bigger decision, you just kind of throw up your hands, like, whatever, just tell me what you want to do. I don't care.
Yep.
Right. That's decision fatigued a lot of times, not based off having filters and doing too many small level decisions.
Yeah, another example would be, when do we make these type of decisions, right? We might decide, hey, one of our filters is we don't make these decisions after noon.
Yeah.
Because we might be tired and we've already been doing lots of things, or we don't tackle these type of decisions until we have our monthly executive meeting.
Right.
Because we need to prepare and have time to marinate on the whole thing, and then we get the opportunity to discuss and debate. So that's another example of like a filter of how you can go about putting these decisions in the right place and making sure that you're not spending time on ones that literally have no alignment with your organization.
Absolutely. Yeah, those are great. The monthly, and then we have quarterly business planning, where it's like, these are great decisions, or great potential decisions that have come up for the last 3 months, but we tell ourselves we cannot put these into the business plan unless
They get to wait.
They get to wait. Turns out most of those decisions are not worth making by the time we get there.
That's exactly right. Which is why it's a great filter.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, the next principle is ask for wise counsel. You referenced this one. This is one of my favorites, right? It means that as we make decisions as leaders, which is part of our job, we don't have to make these decisions alone.
Right.
And we're actually missing a huge area of value to us if we're not involving wise counsel.
Right.
So when we talk about who wise counsel is, what might that include, and how do you think about that?
Yeah, so if you think about this almost like a 360-degree leadership assessment, who is mentoring me? Who's gone before me in this area? And they can kind of say, oh, we were going to make that type of decision, and here's what happened, right? And they can kind of, a lot of times there's storytelling, and that's really helpful to have a mentor. We can have other peers that we can mastermind around, like, what are they seeing? What are they working on? And then the other one that is maybe easy for our leaders to miss is, if you're leading at the appropriate level, you don't have all of the information maybe you need all the way to like the administrative team or whoever's, at the foundational level of your organization. So it's actually getting their perspective and even figuring out what is the impact of them on this. So I want wise counsel. One of the caveats for wise counsel, especially when it comes to peers and mentors, is I can manipulate the counsel that I receive. By bringing my emotional load, by bringing my undertow into the conversation. Like, I come to them and I just I tell them everything possible. I sell them on it.
Yep.
Right. Or it's maybe a personal conflict. And so I load up how horrible the other person is. Right. And a really good wise counselor is going to ask you great questions, and maybe you work through that. But I've seen leaders seed the validation that they want for their idea. And if you do that, just know you're doing yourself a disservice, because you already agree with you.
Yeah.
You don't need other people to agree with you. You need them to see where maybe you should second guess the idea.
Yeah, I would argue even that people agreeing with you isn't counsel at all.
Yeah.
It might be encouragement. It might be additional excitement or passion around the thing you already like, but it's not necessarily counsel.
Right.
Wise counsel is going to, like you said, ask the tough questions, ask about the things maybe you're not sharing, right? Be willing to poke holes in or have you think about pieces that you haven't yet thought about. That tends to be some of the attributes of wise counsel. The other thing is that if you don't already have it, you'll want it and need it, is internal counsel, internal leaders. So you mentioned if you're leading at the right level, you should have other leaders in your organizations that are touching these other areas of the business.
Yeah.
And maybe have made some of these lower impact decisions completely without you. And so having a group of people that you feel like you can regularly come to and receive counsel from inside of your organization would actually be an indicator of whether you're a genius with 1,000 helpers.
Right.
And so you're always making these decisions in quote unquote isolation, or you're involving different people in your organization as you're developing them. That's an incredible source of wise counsel, again, especially if you're not actually party to all the things at the same level that others in your organization are.
Yeah. There's a good chance even your best ideas and decisions are partially painted paintings. They're partially formed, right? And so when you bring in wise counsel, you might already have the thing, but it hasn't been painted. It hasn't been plugged in. Like there's other things that people bring to the table. And again, kind of going back to the very beginning with the Undertow, is any idea or decision, the closer we bring it into our person, the more wise counsel or any criticism of that actually feels personal. And then if it's, I don't want to not be liked or whatever that is, it becomes very personal. If I can take that and I can put it out here, now it's just a thing that we're all talking about. It's a very hard thing to do, but it's an important part of decision making.
Yeah. And when we talk about wise counsel, we want to kind of define a little bit, what does wise mean? Because we want to have discernment around what is actually wise counsel, right? And without getting on my soapbox, we are in this age of influencing.
Yes.
Or influencers, right? Here we are recording a podcast that we hope people listen to. We hope it brings value to them and hopefully maybe creates some influence if that's helpful. But we have to be extra careful because we have such access to influential people.
Yes.
That it's actually the right wise counsel for the decision that we're looking to make, right? So when we think of wisdom, what are some elements that might cause, the counsel we're receiving to be wise? How would we filter through that?
I think part of it is proximity to that other person's life relationally.
Okay.
Right? Do I see the highlight reel, or have I seen them slog through?
Yeah.
Right. Do I know, if somebody's helping me with a business decision, they don't have to be the best investor and the best husband and all these other things, right? It definitely helps, but I want to have some sense of the lens that this person is looking through. And so that means wise counsel is best when there's some level of depth of knowledge or understanding.
Yep.
The other thing that I always look for is, has this person been through the meat grinder? Right. And it makes me feel like an old man saying that.
Explain that.
So the meat grinder is that there's just an element that I've experienced in leadership that over the years, I tend to be more dismissive, and that's not the right word for it, but I tend to not take into account the counsel of people who haven't suffered or been through the meat grinder, been like through a season of life where life was really hard and popping out the other side cost them something, because they're more prone to theory, right? Like theoretically, this is how this should work. Theoretically, this is good, wise counsel. But man, theory that hasn't like had its day in the world being beat up, there are things that absolutely should work, and they don't.
That's right.
And I want to see that this person has wrestled through these type of decisions to bring them to reality, not just a theory.
Yeah, really smart, right? So they have a level of knowledge about the decision you're trying to make. They have a level of experience. They've been through the meat grinder, as you say, around the decision that you're trying to make. They have a demonstrated care for you and the consequence of the decision you're about to make.
So good.
Right? It's like, oh yeah, hey, I've got an idea for you, but I don't really care how it turns out for you. That's not wise counsel to me.
Yeah.
Right? So I need somebody who I trust enough that I know cares about whatever consequence and repercussion is to come from this decision in my world. That they can actually look through that lens with their experience, with their knowledge, and with their care. Then to me, that's a wise advisor, wise counselor that I would want to listen to. And so again, in the age of having easy access to influential people, we want to use good discernment around who's the right wise counsel for this decision or for these decisions, or someone so wise in the space that I operate in and with so much care around my outcome that they earn the right to counsel me in a lot of things around this particular business or this particular time in my life, right?
Absolutely. Love it.
So ask for wise counsel. That is the fourth principle. So the fifth one is R in clear path, and that is review the data. So data.
Yes.
It's the new oil, right? There's tons of it. So
right.
what the heck do we do with all this data? How does it inform our decision making?
So data is so sexy, and just like saying it, I make great decisions based off of the data. It sounds so wise. Turns out data informs good decisions. It doesn't replace them.
Yes.
And it's really important to understand this because data can cause you to have analysis paralysis. And it can certainly cause you to have confirmation bias. I don't know how, when I first started, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, getting more attached to what the data said. I started realizing this really unique thing, and that is I could actually manipulate, without lying or changing the numbers, I can manipulate it to whatever I wanted it to say.
Yeah.
And so data can very clearly say yes or no, like there are instances, but a lot of times it helps you really bring other things into focus. And it really needs to have its place in the process, but it can't be the one thing that you rely on. Data can be easily manipulated, and it can really easily freeze you up.
Yeah, that's right. And so one of the other things you can think about when you're legitimately analyzing the data through a clear lens is you might want to use the but test, right? And the but test is, hey, the data says that this probably won't work, but I think we can do it better, right? Or like 5 companies have tried this geographic location for a business and they've all failed, but ours is going to be different, right?
Yes.
Be careful that that means you're not actually paying attention to what the data may be telling you. Right? You're coming up with excuses of how somehow this isn't going to affect you, rather than, okay, this might be a yellow flag here. This might be something that we want to consider before making this decision. And that's going to indicate that you're actually using it for what it's worth, which is analyzing the consequence, analyzing the likely outcome, analyzing the risk.
Yeah.
Right? Through the data that's available. The other one, as you mentioned, confirmation bias. If all I'm doing is picking out the pieces that validate what I already thought, I'm actually not researching at all. I'm literally just trying to gather information that already confirms what I want or what I think. And so I'm skipping the whole value of doing unbiased research.
Yeah. And even the way that we present data to ourselves or to others can be extremely biased. There was an article a couple years ago that there was, it was something like measles, and it was like a 3,000% increase. And it was like 3 cases.
Yeah.
Right? It was some but the way the news article spun it was like, look at the data. Like, was 3,000% accurate? Yeah, 100%. But
3 additional people.
Yeah. So we just have to be mindful that we're not lying to ourselves in this process. We're not, I see restaurants, like if you've ever seen that restaurant that has had like 5, it's a location that's had 5 different restaurants in there. There's a really good, there's a really good case for paying attention to the data, because unless you actually have a viable new solution that's not just like, well, we'll make better food, we'll do better marketing, like we'll have shinier lights, we'll paint it a different color, like those things are not going to offset the data.
That's right. So a couple questions you can ask yourself as a leader. One is, do I have enough information to make a responsible decision? And also another question is, am I actually hiding in the analysis?
Yes.
Am I letting data get in the way? That's what we think of as paralysis. It's like, oh, I just need to do a little more research. I need to do a little more research. I need to do a little more research. The problem with that is the amount of research you can do is unlimited with the amount of data we have access to. Absolutely. It's a rabbit hole that has no end.
Yes.
And so again, we need enough information to make a responsible decision. We don't want to get lost in the information and get paralyzed. Both of those things can be important, because the reality is what we're looking for is clarity. What we will not find is certainty.
100% accurate.
A decision will still have to be made by us. Just like you said, it doesn't replace good decision making. It informs good decision making. Clarity, not certainty.
Yes.
If we had that, anyone could make the decision.
Yeah, absolutely.
If we had certainty. And if we're looking for that, we're starting to get into that paralysis stage.
Yeah, making a decision, especially inside of an organization with other people, you have so many factors that even if it did look certain, it wouldn't be certain. And so you have to be able to pull the trigger when you are reasonably confident that you're making the best decision possible.
That's right. Okay, so we've gone through the clear path model. So far, we've tackled the clear part. So I'm going to recap before we jump into the next one. The first principle is check the undertow. What are my emotions doing to my decision making here, right? The second one is locate the impact from leaf to root and everything in between. What impact does this decision have on the organization? The third principle is establish the filters. What filters do we use to make these decisions so that we're not starting from a blank canvas and getting overly fatigued every single time? And then the next one is ask for wise counsel. right? That's the A in clear. So when you're looking for wise counsel, we want to use good discernment around who that actually is and why they would provide that to us in this case. And then the R is review the data. We want enough for clarity, but not looking for so much that we start to get paralyzed looking for certainty.
Yeah. Yeah, so we go from clear, now we go to path, and we want to start with the P, which is pause or proceed. Not every decision needs to be made immediately. I think that I've come to realize that almost any area of my life or situation where I feel a compulsion is not going to turn out well.
Yeah.
When I feel a compulsion, it's like the other side of the coin of being reactive.
Sure.
Right. Compelled, reactive, kind of the same thing with just a different target. And so there are times where you will feel pressure from other people. You'll feel pressure from an industry. You'll feel your own maybe impatience giving you a pressure.
Usually that one.
Usually that one. You just have to make a decision. No, actually, you don't.
Yeah.
There are times where productive procrastination is absolutely the best thing because you can attack this with all kinds of fervor and do the research and. The reality is you need 2 or 3 weeks to play this out. You need 2 or 3 months for this just to play out, to be able to get your bearings and to be able to get the relevant information, to be able to watch and pay attention, and maybe even just let the decision dissolve on its own.
Yeah, oftentimes when you use this productive patience or productive procrastination, things that you thought needed to be decided actually end up not being needed. They either decide themselves or they show themselves as not needing to be decided at all.
Yeah.
Like not even later. Just like, oh, that's not a decision we have to make because this changed or we got new information. So the other thing is, I think there's an element of wisdom here that comes with just what we'll call it marinating in all the things that we've talked about thus far, all the principles. It's like, okay, what kind of impact is this going to have? Is this a decision I should make on my own? What wise counsel am I invited into this? What filters have I run this through? Sometimes you can't do that with urgency.
No.
And sometimes like sleeping on it is a really good idea.
It is.
Creating some space, having a conversation with your spouse if that's appropriate. Right? Like just having this marination time can be really, really helpful for leaders, especially when we have lots of decisions to make, right? We don't have to make them all right in the split second because that lends us to making bad ones. We're not using any of these principles if we're always making snap decisions, especially the ones that are important.
Yeah, and it's, the more you get used to decision making, the more your brain has been wired, hopefully, to make better and better decisions. And the number of times that I've put something on a whiteboard and just walked away from it, sometimes for weeks or months, and just occasionally you come back and look, and you're like, interesting. And then you wake up one day, and all of a sudden your brain, without your intentionality, puts all the pieces together, and you have a great decision.
Yep.
Right? So just like good wine, let it breathe.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. So some questions you can ask around this that are really practical is this decision actually urgent, or am I just feeling urgency to make it? Is more information developing? That's a great question. Is more information happening in real time that might be supportive or informative around this decision that I can wait to gather? Or going back to data, is more information available that I just haven't accessed yet that I want to have time to go and analyze and research, right? Am I procrastinating because it's uncomfortable? Now, that's kind of on the other side of things, right? Like if there's an uncomfortable decision that needs to be made with urgency, and now you're procrastinating and it's not productive, it's unproductive because, again, whether it's our emotions or our ego or our fear of like conflict is getting in the space, occasionally you actually do need to make it right now.
Absolutely.
And so that's going to take some of your discernment too, which is why the P stands for pause or proceed.
Right. Absolutely.
Yep. Okay, so the second one in path, we're now moving forward with the decision, is assess the risk. Assess the risk of this decision. Why is that important?
So all decisions carry a risk, and if we set aside the emotional element of that, we do need to actually assess the risk with kind of like a matrix. And Keith Cunningham in his book, The Road Less Stupid, I think gives a very, very simple one, and is this. Hey, what's the upside? Sometimes we're about to make a risky decision, and the value of that decision, like if it goes well, is actually just not very big.
Yeah.
It really, there's not that much upside, right? So what's the upside? right? Is like, okay,
Is the juice worth
is
the
the juice
squeeze?
worth the squeeze, right? What is the worst case downside? So if you have a very little upside and a catastrophic downside, that's a really risky decision to make, right? Morgan Housel says it in, I think, his book, The Psychology of Money. Don't trade what you have and need for what you don't have and don't need.
Yeah, it's great.
It's good wisdom, right? So what's the worst case downside? And the third one is, can I live with the downside? And I think that's a really great clarifying question. I figure out, where could this go? And if it doesn't go well, what happened? And can I live with that? Another question in there is the question, what is the most likely outcome? Right? So if I identify kind of the entire envelope, what's the best, what's the worst, what's likely to happen, and can I live with the worst, I'm going to have my risk assessed pretty quickly.
Yep, that's exactly right. And the idea is using this risk assessment not to eliminate risk, because good luck with that.
Right.
Again, a decision that required zero risks, anyone could make.
That's right. That's right.
We're not eliminating it, but we're mitigating it. We're minimizing it because we want to use our thinking and the structure to be able to do that prior to actually taking action.
100%. Yep.
Okay, so the T in path and the next principle is take responsibility.
Ooh,
Now this one could just be like, oh, duh, we can move on from that, but it's too important, right? Like,
is.
and doing it well actually requires some thought behind taking responsibility, because ultimately leadership comes down to one decision, and that is, if I'm going to make this decision, if I'm going to lead in this space, am I willing to be the responsible party?
Yes.
And tell me, Reed, why that can feel so challenging or heavy at times.
I think part of it is that leaders haven't digested the fact that if you are the leader of the organization or higher up in the organization, everything actually is your fault.
Yeah.
Right? There's, if you go down through it, let's just say even like a leaf decision gets made poorly. Who hired that person? Who hired the person leading that person? Who gave them the authority? It will all roll up to you.
Yep.
And I always think about this, some people are very, very hesitant to take personal responsibility, and they're very, very quick to deflect. But the way that I think about this is, anytime I deflect personal responsibility, I'm actually giving my personal power away. Yeah. If it's something that happens to me, right? I can blame everything else, but ultimately what I'm doing is I'm saying I'm powerless.
Yeah.
And if I'm unwilling as a leader to take responsibility, what I'm actually saying is, I'm powerless, I can't help this, If I take responsibility, I take a hit to my ego for sure, but I actually pull back the power, right? Like if I am the responsible party, I'm going to take it on the chin, but I'm also going to be the kind of person that over the course of time can take things on the chin.
Yep.
And for me, that's become really, really important to understand. The other thing is anytime you see a leader giving up responsibility, you see them losing respect as a leader. Right? The ability to say, I was wrong, that was on me, right? I'll take that on the chin. That is something that models for other people how they should show up in the business, as well as their families, and so on and so forth.
Which is why what you said is so good, and which is why I think determining that you're going to take responsibility before you make the decision is helpful in taking the responsibility once the outcome or the consequence from that decision shows up.
That's right.
If you already said, you know what, I'm going to make this decision and I own it no matter the outcome, then hey, if things go well, great. If things go poorly, you own it.
Yes.
Right? There's a really good book called Extreme Ownership around this topic.
Yeah.
Right? That I highly recommend and have read a couple times. And ultimately deciding to take that responsibility, putting your neck on the line. That's what you have to do when you make a decision. Creates the nerve required to make the decision.
Yeah.
Right? Because again, all the data in the world, all the great advice in the world, at the end of the day, you're still going to be the responsible party when you make these decisions. And like you said, depending on your level of leadership, you're responsible for even the decisions that get made underneath you.
Yeah.
One way or another.
Oh, 100%. And probably like if you wanted to put some frosting on the cake, something that I would encourage leaders to do is to think about always taking the responsibility when it's a negative outcome and always giving it away if it's a positive outcome.
Yep.
A mentor of mine a long time said, always give other people what you want for yourself, right? If I want praise, I want to be recognized, that's actually what I want to give to somebody else. Am I secure enough in my leadership to say, hey, that initiative that just went so well, that was Sally. She crushed it. And for Sally to look at me and be like, we worked on that together. Like, cool.
Yeah, but you did it, right?
Yeah. It goes poorly. That's on me. Sally's like, we worked on it together. I'm like, yeah, like I'm gonna take the bullet. It's just, and that will build tremendous levels of trust. And people that give their best, they don't have this this sense of like, you might just take that away from them.
Yep. Love it. So take responsibility and consciously be doing that before you make the decision.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, the H in path is hone the skill. This is where the rubber meets the road. So decision making, we believe, is a skill just like any other skill that should improve over time.
Yep.
But repetition is the mother of skill.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So we got to get in the game if we expect our decision making to improve. And this can be a little scary, right? Because it's like, well, I want to, and this happens in a lot of ways in life and growth and leadership. It's like, well, I want to feel like I have expertise before I do anything. It's like, you can't get the expertise before doing anything, right? So it's this catch-22.
Yeah.
Same with decision making. You want to get better at making decisions? Start making decisions.
Yeah, like I was horrible making decisions in my 20s. But now that I'm in my 40s, I make some pretty good decisions a decent amount of the time. Why? Because of the decisions in the 20s.
Yep.
Right. Could I have made better decisions? Could I have run through the model? Yes. But with time, you go from knowledge to wisdom, hopefully, and you start to kind of build a Rolodex or like some foundation of past decisions, both good and bad, that now educate you in your decisions moving forward. And so hopefully as your leadership journey progresses, you should make decisions with more confidence, with less undertow, right? With more wise counselors, and ultimately faster, more effective decisions.
Yeah, think of like we've all heard like practice makes perfect. Well, that's not what we're going for here. Where practice makes better.
Yeah.
And better and better and better and better.
Right.
Right? We're not seeking perfection, but we're seeking progress and better decision making along the way. If all you ever do is avoid making decisions, you're stunting your growth in decision making.
Yes.
The example you used is perfect, Reed. Like if I was in my 20s and I said, you know what, I'm going to make a habit out of avoiding decisions to be made, then how well would I be making decisions in my 40s?
Yeah.
Not very well. And so there's this element of courage and like taking the first step in decision making to develop the skill that is required. Because if you want to make better decisions in the future, you have to have the courage to make less better decisions now.
100%.
Right? Again, and hopefully some of this framework helps you no matter where you're getting started or where you are in your leadership journey, because these things can make a difference.
Yeah.
But getting in the game and getting some repetition around decision making will also make a difference for you. Because guess what? Sometimes those decisions are going to take you through the meat grinder.
Yeah, they are.
Right?
And sometimes they're
some
still
of
the
the
best
most
decisions.
wisdom come from the hardest lessons.
Yeah.
And I wish that it wasn't that way, but it is that way.
That's right.
And so we have to be willing to have the courage to step into the arena, even though there's still massive opportunity for our decision making to continue to improve.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the level your leadership grows will come with more and more responsibility. More and more responsibility is heavier and heavier, and that has to sit on a more tried and true foundation, right? Yep. So you just have to do it over time.
So hopefully these 9 principles, clear path is kind of the acronym that we're using, will help everyone make better decisions over time, right? Yeah. So Reed, as we kind of land the plane here and we're wrapping up this episode on better decision making, what else would you share with us around kind of the weight that leaders carry around decisions?
So if you wake up and you just have this realization that everything in your organization ultimately is your responsibility, that can just be crushing if you haven't thought about that before. But my encouragement is zoom out and realize that it's a difference between it being your responsibility and your job. There can be lots of other people that their job is to make these decisions. And when you're zoomed out, take a look, what decisions am I making inside my organization that I need to empower other people to make? what decisions am I feeling internal pressure because maybe I am a very, very hyper responsive person and I continue in this pattern of needing to make decisions quickly and wearing myself out, and I just need to let them like simmer for a while. Just kind of take a look at these different principles, and I would just encourage you to take a look at through the lens of what is your behavior and how are you showing up, and then make some small changes to be able to grow the way you make decisions.
Yeah, I love that. And I would just add to like, carry the weight of responsibility that comes with decision making as an honor, right? Like the world is starving for great leaders, which means that the world is starving for better decision makers in part.
Yeah.
Is it easy? No. Should this framework help you? Yes, we hope so. And that's been our experience. And is it an honor to make good decisions and lead people well? Yeah, even if it's hard. That's a different way of carrying the weight than just some crushing burden of making decisions.
Yeah, it's almost like if you think about who the people are that are listening to this, do you want to wake up tomorrow, apart from just being like, in a place where you're totally depleted, do you really want to wake up tomorrow and have nobody depend on you, nobody trust you, nobody care about, how you show up? I don't. Sometimes the weight gets heavy, but when you take a step back and you realize, man, there's a lot of people that trust me to be the kind of person that I've grown into being and the person I need to continue to become. It's a massive honor. It's a pretty cool way to live life.
It sure is. Well, thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Sherpa Leadership Podcast. We hope that it encouraged and inspired you. And as always, leave a review, share it with a fellow leader, and visit SherpaConsultingGroup.com for more resources. Remember that leadership is a journey. Every single step you take matters. So keep climbing, and we'll see you on the next one.